Hello everyone, myself Riva Khan. I am working at Carniq as a senior analyst artificial intelligence, and I would like to welcome you all to our webinar today for requirement generation using our tool carAISuite. So without wasting much of further time, I would hand it over to Dharmesh so that we can deep dive into our tool carAISuite, understand the requirement generation process manually as well as using our carAISuite tool. And yeah, so over to you, Dharmesh.
Thanks. Hello everyone. Welcome again in the webinar. So myself Dharmesh Patel. I'm working as a senior cybersecurity engineer at Carniq. I'm mostly involved in the development of carAISuite and testing as well. So we will going to discuss more in detail about the tool. So before we dive into the today's topic, let's first see the outline. Moving into the next slide. So initially few minutes I'll be discussing about the Carniq. Then we will see the software and system requirement engineering as a manual approach in the current industry, how the engineers are following to generate the or create the requirements. Then we will see about the challenges associated with it. Then we will discuss how these challenges are mitigated using the carAISuite, which is the Carniq tool. We'll also talk about the overview about the carAISuite tool itself. Then we will see the most interesting part of this webinar, the live demo of the software requirement generation. And before we move into Q&A section, we will share some of the customer stories for the carAISuite. Moving into the next slide. So meanwhile, if you have any question during this webinar, please write your questions in the Q&A window. We will answer all your questions at the end of the dedicated session for the Q&A in this webinar. So moving on to the next slide. So we have two main locations, Munich, Germany, which is the headquarter, and Mysore, India. All the organizational management activities and the services runs from the Munich branch, while the R&D and the product development are preliminarily happens in India. So moving on to the next slide. So our organization mission statement is to expedite the security of next gen vehicles through disruptive innovation and technologies. So whatever work we do and whichever the products we have, which is aligned with this mission statement. Moving on to the next slide. So discussing about the business models. So we are mainly focusing on the two main areas. One is cybersecurity services and the other is cybersecurity products. Moving on to the next slide. So talking about the services, so we provide the services all and around the ISO SA 21434. We provide the cybersecurity analysis, which is, for example, TARA analysis, etc. We also perform the cybersecurity testing, cybersecurity development. We also provide the cybersecurity trainings, and of course, we also provide the cybersecurity management related services. Moving on to the next slide. Talking about the products, so we have two ready to use solutions. One is carSecurity, which is launched a couple of years back, which is automotive cybersecurity process landscape tool, where we have ready-made process available. There are templates which you can easily use, tailored it according to your project needs, and get started. The latest product we have is carAISuite, which is the AI-based automotive engineering and compliance tool. We will be discussing carAISuite in detail in this webinar. Moving on to the next slide. So that was all about the introduction of Carniq. Now I will hand over to Riva, explain about how the manually requirement is getting generated or manually written in the industry. So over to you, Riva.
Yeah. Thank you, Dharmesh, for the overview. So here we come to the main part of today's webinar, which is majorly to look into the system software requirement engineering. So with this, I would like to start with the manual approach. How currently in the industry the requirement engineers are what approach the requirement engineers are following, and then later on we will also have a look at some of the challenges that the requirement engineers are facing, and then later on we will also see the carAISuite way. So in this slide itself, we are able to see there are some of the steps which are mentioned when it comes to requirement engineering process itself. So the first step being requirement elicitation. So in this step, as we know, it involves gathering needs, expectations, constraints from the stakeholders who are none other than the customers or the end users. In the automotive domain, it includes conducting the interviews or workshops, or also reviewing standards like ISO 26262 for functional safety. So the main goal of requirement elicitation is to capture the raw requirement as it is without much of a filtering. Also, if you have attended our previous webinars, you might be already familiar with what are the challenges that people are facing for the requirement elicitation phase itself. Coming to the next part, which is the requirement analysis. The elicited requirements are then examined for the feasibility, consistency, completeness, and conflicts. This involves prioritizing the requirements, identifying the ambiguities, and categorizing them into different types, like maybe the functional requirements, which are more on the lines of what the system does, and non-functional requirements, which are more like a performance-related requirements or safety-related requirements, and so on. So in automotive software, this step often also includes the risk assessments and also ensuring the traceability to the relevant standards. The third step here we have is requirement specification. So during this step, the analyzed requirements are then formalized into clear, unambiguous, and structured document. So as we know, today in the automotive industry, there are many standardized templates or tools which are available, like doors or polarians with formats like the system shall do certain action under certain condition and using certain performance metrics. So this kind of things are used. In automotive project, precise specifications are critical to support the later verification and validation, which brings me to the next point, which is the requirement validation. This ensures that the specified requirements are accurately reflect to the stakeholders' need and are correct, complete, and achievable. So validation typically is performed through reviews, walkthroughs, or simulations. So these are the different techniques which are used for the requirement validation. And the last point that we have is requirement management itself. So this requirement management itself is an ongoing process which involves tracking of the requirements, tracking of the changes, maintaining the different versions, ensuring traceability, and assessing the impacts due to the modifications. So this is overall the manual approach, or if we talk about how the requirement engineering is performed in the automotive industry. So this is an overview of the manual approach that in the industry people are following. So with this approach, there are some challenges which also comes into picture, so we can also have a look into the challenges. Yeah, so the first challenge being time consumption. So as I explained about the different processes how time consuming this whole process can be, like writing the requirements, then reviewing them, checking for the completeness, and validating them against the project needs. This all of this process requires an enormous amount of efforts as well as time. When the deadlines are tight, the time that are spent on generally documentation of these requirements often ends up competing with the time that should be spent on actual development and problem solving. So this is one of the challenge that people are facing for which is time consumption. Uh, Sorry. I would Yeah, the next challenge that we have is complexity. So, as we know that today, nowadays, the modern vehicles are not just about engines or hardware. They are highly software driven, which contains hundreds of ECUs and also interconnected features. As a requirement engineer, it is really challenging to capture each and every detail correctly. Whether it would be an ADAS function that depends on multiple sensors, or maybe a cybersecurity feature that is linked to several subsystems. Managing this complexity feels like piecing together a puzzle without seeing the full picture. So complexity is also one of the biggest challenge that people are facing in terms of requirement engineering process itself. The third one that I'm able to see here is the error prone. So definitely, as we've seen, since the process is manual, mistakes often do tend to happen. A typo, a small omission, or even a misdependency, it might look very minor at the beginning, but later on during testing or during the audits, those little mistakes turns into big amount of rework. And rework, as we know, always means lost time and extra cost. So this brings me to the next part, which is one of the hardest part. I believe all the requirement engineers would be facing lot of troubles in maintaining the traceability. As we know that each and every requirement from they should be traceable from customer requirement specification to the system requirement specification to the software requirement specification, and then finally to the test case as well. Honestly, it's so exhausting. Even a single missed link can make compliance audits extremely painful. And when the auditors come in, the missing link is exactly that they will, ask about. So this is one of the hardest challenge that requirement engineering process manual approach comes with. And the next challenge that we have is scalability. So when the projects are small, like there are a few features and just a few things, few features has to be implemented, then it is like, okay, you can manage the projects, you can manage the requirements within the spreadsheets or, requirement documents. But when it comes to when it comes large or complex project, like when it comes to scaling the project, it becomes very difficult, because the requirement numbers runs directly into thousands or 10 thousands of requirement, and keeping them consistent across the different teams, it becomes nearly impossible without automations. Which brings me to the last point of the challenges, which are lack of automations. So, requirement engineers spend so much time on repetitive tasks like copying IDs, building traceability matrices, or double checking the consistency. These tasks are really important, but it does not really need our brain power. Like it is something, and also it does not need our time that we spend. Instead of this, we can spend time on focusing on the quality or safety and innovation. So these are some of the challenges that most of the requirement engineers in the automotive industries are facing. Too much time wasted, too much complexity, too many errors, and not enough of automation. But here's the good news: it doesn't have to stay that way. This is exactly where our tool carAISuite comes in. This basically helps us to cut down the repetitive work, handle the complexity with ease, and stay aligned with standards like ASPICE, functional safety, and cybersecurity. So I would like to hand it over to Dharmesh so that he can take us through the through our carAISuite way. What does our tool what does our tool contain, what does our tool offer, and all of these things.
Okay, thanks, Riva, for explaining the challenges and manual approach. So, yeah, here you can see the carAISuite way, how these challenges are mitigated. So, as an end user or any of your team member can import the high level requirements. It could be your customer requirement or system requirements document to carAISuite tool, and carAISuite tool will using the AI automatically will generate the lower level requirement. So if you give input as a system requirement, then tool will be generating the software requirement corresponding to each of the system requirement. If you provide input as a customer requirement, then carAISuite will be generating the system requirements. And these generated requirements, then you can directly utilize into your further project activity. So using the car AI suite, the automotive requirement generation activity would be become very quickly reliable, and you will get the systematic output that can be directly used for further activities and also would be evidence for your assessment. So moving on to the next slide. So talking about the carAISuite tool itself, so it covers multiple use cases. As we seen, there are different steps involved in the requirement engineering. So one of the use case is the generation. So currently carAISuite supports two kind of work product generation. One is the engineering work products. It could be your system requirement, software requirement, hardware requirement, etc, and the other is process related work products, for example cybersecurity plan, cybersecurity case, etc. The second use case is the elicitation. So we already if you might have attended our previous webinar, then we have covered in detail how the carAISuite performs the elicitation. So here you provide the system stakeholder requirement as an input, then tool will be automatically using AI will elicitate the corresponding stakeholder requirements. And the third use case covered by the carAISuite tool is the compliance. So here you provide the input requirement as one of the input to our tool, and also the relevant review criteria which against what you want to compare or review these requirements. Using these two inputs, then our tool will generate the report as output, and this report will be automatically reviewed your requirement and give the proper reviews. If there is a violation of any review criteria, it will indicate that, and this can be then directly utilized in the project. So these are some of the use cases currently covered by the carAISuite tool. Moving on to the next slide. So here you can see the simple architecture of carAISuite. On left hand side you can see the development environment. So I believe all of you are somehow uh, basically from the automotive domain, and these tools might be familiar to you. So either your development environment is Git or Polarian or IBM's. So from there you can export into the standard formats your work products, for example PDF format, Excel format, or ARXML, and this then would be given as an input to carAISuite tool itself. In carAISuite tool, first these inputs would be pre-processed. Relevant informations would be stored to the backend and retrieved for the further processing. So on the second steps, based on the which use case you are performing, it will use the LLM help, and the LLM will give the response, and this will be then post processed by the tool in the relevant format which you want. And currently tool will generate the output in the standard format itself, for example your XML report or Excel sheet, that can be then directly imported to your development environment. And this is the very high level architecture of carAISuite. Of course, it's complex within it, but yeah, as a architecture, it's this simple. Then moving on to the next slide. Okay, so here comes the most interesting part of the webinar, and of course, you all are waiting for this. So we'll quickly see the live demo how we will be able to generate the software requirement using carAISuite tool. So over to you, Riva.
Yes. Okay, just a moment. I will run the tool. All right. So here is our tool, which is carAISuite, which is a desktop-based application. And the screen that you are able to see currently is basically the create the initial part of the tool, the initial part, like any tool or any applications that we use. So here we in our tool we have given the user to create a new project or load any existing project which is already created with our tool. So projects are basically in our carAISuite tool. Projects are not the complete software development project, but for in order to keep the work products streamlined in one place, different projects can be created with different as we see there are so many different sections in the tool like compliance, generation, elicitation. So in order to keep everything separate and everything in one place, the projects are created. So I will just start by creating a new project. And as Dharmesh earlier also explained us, there are different major components of our tool carAISuite, which is generation, elicitation, and compliance. Our major focus today in this webinar would be on the generation part. So I will just select the generation, and I will have to give a project name. So I will just give it. Yeah, and the user has to give a path, or they can also choose. So I will just give a path, and the user has to enter a ECU name for which they are they want to generate. So for today's demo, I have let us take an example of a gateway ECU and a short description. So the user also has to upload or give a short brief about what the ECU is, a short description which will help to understand, or which will also help in further requirement generation process. So this is something which the user has to enter. And yeah, the next that we are able to see, the next screen that we are able to see is basically the work product selection. So here the user is given the option to select. There are two options, or maybe also a combination of both. The first we give is segregate based on the different groups like A spice relevant, cyber security, or functional safety relevant. And in that we can also even more if we want even more specific answer, then we can choose whether you have a system, you want to generate something related to the system, software, or hardware. So now I will choose the A spice and software, since we will be having a look into the software requirement generation. Yes, at this particular screen, the user has to input all the documents which are necessary, or the higher level documents that the user wants to give as an input. So since we want to generate the software requirement, I will choose the system requirements, or give the system requirements as an input. And also the user have to specify the type of the document. So it comes under the system requirement, and then import. So the project would be created. So yes, yeah. So as you guys would be able to see at the left hand side, there is a progress bar. So once the user imports the documents, the upper level documents into the project, it takes some time for the pre-processing of the document itself, for as we have to use it for the purpose of generation. Till the time we can have a look at this interface that we are able to see currently is our basically the project explorer view, where at the left side you will be able to see there is I, yeah there is input requirements. So we as we already put a folder, right? We selected the system requirements as an input. So that input requirements, we have the system requirement document, so that can be visible. And on the right side that we are able to see is basically the features. So since this is a demo version, we have supported only 3 features at the moment, which is SecOC, secure flashing, and diagnostics. And yeah, that is pretty much it. Anything to add on, Dharmesh, from your side?
Uh, I think yeah, you can also show the what are the different views or option on the top side, so you can close or navigate from there.
Yeah. So here we have like file, uh, just like some other tools, we have some basic options like file, edit, view, and help. So the user can open the project, open a new project, or close the project. There are also different views like Project Explorer, which is the left side, the Generation Toolbar, which is the right side, and the feature extraction, which we will be able to see in some time once our processing of the document is complete. And in the help section it is just something common, which is like the tool about the tool and disclaimer and all of this kind of things. So I think the processing of our document is complete. I will just extract the features and show. Yeah, I think yes, the feature extraction is open, so we can have a look into the feature extraction thing. So here you can see high level features are extracted and from the document, from the input document that we give. So the input document that we give was a system requirement which contained. We will also have a look into the input document at some time. But these are extract features. So this is one of the function that we are giving so that the user, when the user receives a customer requirement document, they can simply run their document through our tool so that they can get to know about the high level features that the document contains. For example, in this document, I think there are diagnostics related requirements, there are security related requirements, there are secure flashing, SecOC, and routine control related requirements which are present. So that is something which we would be able to see in the the feature extraction functionality itself. So I will also do one thing. Just close this and yeah, I will. Since this generation of the requirements takes a couple of minutes, so this is where I will keep the requirements for generation, and then we can also slowly, like if we want, we can have a look into the input document itself as well. So the feature extraction. Yeah. So I will just open the input document as well and see how this input documents actually is looks like. So here the input document is prepared by our team itself for the purpose of demo. And this is basically just like some other system requirement input document, which contains the ID. There is also a description and there is a type of requirement, which is functional, non-functional, or this kind of type is specified with each of the requirement. So this contains just some high level requirements, just like some other system level requirements, like specifying the services that are used for the diagnostics. There are some requirements which are related to the DIDs, which are related to the RIDs, and also some requirements related to the DTCs. These all requirements are with respect to the diagnostics. So as we also see in our feature extraction, it was able to identify properly the different features that with respect to the diagnostic, the different UDS services. And also in the other part, there is in the below, if we go, there is also some requirements which are related to the SecOC itself. So some profile related requirement, profile configuration, and this kind of requirements are also available. And if we go furthermore below, there are some requirements which are also available with respect to the secure flashing. So bootloader related requirement and secure software updates, and this kind of requirements are available. So this is all about our input documents. Dharmesh, anything you would like to add on?
Uh, yeah, so this is the high level requirement documents. So which gives very high level, you will provide the very high level system requirements, and you expect that from this requirement, then the actually whenever the software requirement is getting written manually, you derived at the very low level, which can be tested further. So you take one of the system requirement, and then you can break down into 2 to 3 software requirements. So this also will see once the tool generate the requirement, it will take uh, some time. And I also wanted to talk about little bit on the feature which Riva showed about the feature extraction part. So on the extraction part, there you seen that there are so many features and sub features getting extracted by the tool. So there are different, I would say, use cases you can utilize in your project using this. So you can easily export this, and it will already give you the high level features and sub feature list without you need to manually go through the all the requirements. Then you can decide in your project, okay, which feature you want to implement in your project first, and which would be on the later part. You can also prioritize on the sub feature, and based on that you further do your development activity. So this is the one of the use case you can do. And one more thing you can utilize is it could be given to cross functional team like fusa or cybersecurity to conduct their analysis, etc. So using this features and sub feature, that is also interesting part. So you can directly export this into PDF and utilize further. And on this tool, you can see on the left hand corner, while tool is generating the requirement, you will see the progress, how much requirement is getting generated, on which step it is, which feature you selected, etc. Can you go to the system requirement document, input document, Riva?
Yeah. Yes.
So can you scroll down a bit? So here there are some input requirements related to SecOC, which mostly talks about which all our PDUs are getting configured. There are some transmission PDUs, there are some reception PDUs, and at very high level you have specified that which encryption algorithm it has to support. So I would say we'll see the output once it is generated by the tool, how actually it's generating the software requirement.
Yep.
Maybe can you
Yeah.
go to
I
the
think
tool?
it would be complete. Yeah. Here.
Okay.
So here we have our output requirement generated. So I will also take you through the output requirements. Okay. Yep. So here, our output requirement is basically generated in the form of Excel. In this Excel, we have 3 different sheets which are available. The first one being the header information sheet. So here basically some basic details about the software requirement specification document, the version of it, on the date on which it got generated, and the name of the project, and also some disclaimer from the tool, and some copyright things, which are basically with respect to the tools. And the next or the last one that we have is the legend. So the legend page is also nothing but the terminologies which are generally used in our generated requirements, so that what those terminologies exactly are, or what is the justification for those terminologies. Like for example, if in our generated requirement there is a type which is given or which is attached with respect to the requirements, then functional, non-functional information, so based on what it has been classified as a functional, non-functional, or informational requirement. So that is something which is available or which will be added as a part of the legend. And here comes our main thing, which is nothing but our requirements itself. So in our requirements, if we are able to see, there are separate or several fields which are added. So I will just make it a bit less. Yeah, it looks good. So this the generated report generally contains the IDs, the specification. Specification is nothing but our requirement itself. Then it also has a type which is associated with each of the requirement. There is a status which initially the first time or the time when you generate the requirement, it is in a draft status. When someone review it, then it can be changed into the different status as well. And the next thing that we have is planned release, implemented release, verification criteria, verification type. So as you can see now, planned release, implemented release, verification criteria, all of these things, we have kept it as a generic value for the time being to be updated, but this can definitely be customizable based on the inputs that are provided by the customer to us. Like there are some timelines or this kind of project timelines. If those things are provided, then these things can also be like added to the report. And the next thing that we are able to see is the traceability of the requirements. So here the requirements which are generated, it will also give the traceability about like from which requirement it is traced, or at system level what requirement it has been traced to. And in the specification or in the requirement itself, you can see the secoc feature is divided into several chapters. Like there is a chapter for general requirements, there are MAC related requirements, there are security event related requirements, there are freshness value related requirements. So this automatically the tool is able to identify, and the tool is able to divide these requirements into these different kind of sections. So anything to add on, Dharmesh?
I think this looks good. So yeah, as you can see, it's very systematic way how the requirement is getting generated, and this can be directly also used as evidence to showing in the assessment, because it has the version management, also the traceability are in place. Also the legends will specify all the required informations what you need to mention in the process, etc. So I would say, and it take little very less time compared to if you write these requirements manually. So that's the advantage of using carAISuite.
Yeah, there were like about 15 or 10 to 15 requirements which were available in the system requirement document. And you can see there are about 50 requirements, which are more than 50 requirements, which are detailed out at the software level. So that is also one of the benefit that we have with our tool. So
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
this was basically the demo for the tool. Now I would like to hand it over to Dharmesh so that we can have a look into some of our customer stories that we have.
Okay, so before we move into Q&A section, let me quickly explain you or give you some examples of or customer stories we have done previously. So the first one is with one of the tier one German supplier. So main challenges for them was it was very high effort in deriving the system and software requirement specification, also time consuming. Even though they were well established processes in place, they could not achieve the same result for the particular project they were working on. They have achieved good result in the past, but they could not achieve. That could be several reasons. Maybe the people previously working, experienced people, they were not working in this project, and now it's very difficult to generate the systematic output. So that's where they approached us, and our approach was agreed initially the scope and structure of the work product with them, what are the input required and prerequisite, whatever we have. We agreed with them. We then got all the inputs. We use our carAISuite tool to derive the system and software requirement specification. There were some tailoring required based on their needs, how they wanted their work products as output. So little bit customization required in our tool. So we had done then, and after generating the output, we had the regular meetings with them, with their expert, to agree on the intermediate outcomes. And finally, we deployed the carAISuite, ensuring the data privacy and the future updates. Moving on to the next customer story. So this is also interesting customer story we had with the German OEM, which was mostly related to ADAS requirement generation, as their main challenge here was they had the huge number of customer requirements, system requirements, approx 2,500 to 3,000 requirements. Then they had to write software requirement, which was very, again, high, taking high effort, and uh, also in the time pressure of completion of the project. So again, the approach we followed is similar to previous customer story. We initially had a meeting, agreed on the scope and the structured output. Once we agreed that what are the things we need as input, and what is the output scope, we used our platform to generate the ADAS related software requirement. Again, we had regular meetings with their expert to agree on the intermediate outcomes, and deploy finally the carAISuite in their premises. So I think, yeah, those were the customer stories related to specific to requirement generation part. Moving on to the next slide. So as we are about to close, if you also interested in free POC, you can already request through our website, which is carAISuite at the our website, or you can directly write us on the carAISuite at carniq.ai. We will take less than a week effort to define the scope and the prerequisite. We will sign the NDA with you, and then we'll get started. So yeah, those were the things we had in today's webinar. Now it's time for the questions. So we quickly take the questions. Let's see what are the questions we have. I see there are a couple of questions. So first question is, what is the difference between the requirement generation and elicitation? So answer to your question, Ramesh. So requirement elicitation is more on the SIS1 level, where the stakeholder or customer requirements are analyzed, uh, understanding the requirement and checking if uh, there are feasible, or they are feasible or not to implement. So requirement, on the other hand, you see the requirement generation is more of deriving the detailed requirement for the implementation based on the abstract higher level requirement. And then these requirements also should be in precise that it can be tested properly. So that is the basically difference between requirement elicitation and the requirement generation. Okay, comes to the second question. So you had second question, system requirements document is read by your tool. How do we verify the correctness of the requirement generated? I think that's a good question. Answer to your question. So basically, there are two parts for this. So the tool itself has the capability to do the quality checks on the generated requirements. So there is also a consistency check that will be checked by the tool itself. So as you might have seen when I explained the three different use cases supported by our tool. One of the use case is the compliance checks. So you can also utilize that. You provide this generated requirement as an input. Then also the consistency checks review criteria. Then automatically tool will give you if the requirement are not consistent or there are some duplicate requirements, traceability is wrong, something like that. The tool itself will give you as output. So we have already some metrics we internally, while developing this tool, performed and measure to make sure that generating a requirement, whenever it takes place, it uh, generate correctly. So we use the AI for this. So we also measure this using the Raga's matrix framework, so which will give us how consistent is the generated requirement or how correct is the our output generated by the LLM. Hope these answers are clear for your questions. Thank you.
So there is also one, I think not a question, but an observation. So when we saw the output file of the software requirements, the requirements IDs were allocated not only to the software requirement, but also to the chapter and subchapter. So yeah, basically we allocate the IDs so that each line item can be uniquely identified, and this is also done so that if the customer wants to import this back to any of their requirement management tool, it can be, or it would be easier. So this is where sometimes the IDs are also mapped to the chapters and subchapters as well. And coming to the next question, I think there is also yeah, does the carAISuite tool assign the FUSA SL levels to the functional requirements? So yes, that is something which we also did in one of the customer stories that Dharmesh has shared. So for that we have customized. So this basically, these all are the different things which can be customized, and when the customer comes up with some of with such of requirements, we are able to fulfill. So yeah, the different ASIL levels for the requirements are also specified with the generated requirements. So that is basically, yeah, possible with our tool.
Yeah, and speaking on this observation, what you mentioned. So if you see the requirement management tools also, for example, DOS or Polarian, etc., there also when these requirements are manually written, that specify the IDs to identify those chapters or titles as one of the item, and because it's specified that uniquely it should be identified. So maybe we can take one more question as we are close to the time. If you guys have any other questions, let's discuss. Let me just quickly see the Q&A section. Okay, I think we covered all the questions we had in the Q&A. Okay, if you don't have any question as of now, then feel free to also connect us later part whenever you have doubt on the tool. Please also follow us on different social media platform. We regularly give the update on this our new development. There is also in the pipeline some of the other use cases we are covering. For example, architecture generation, also the test specification generation. So please do follow us. As soon as we have some update, we will post, and we also will organize similar webinars for the future use cases. So I would say thanks a lot for joining today's webinar, and see you until next time. Thank you.
Thank you.